Giddy up. We're going with you. We're going live and we're going to roll out the door with you. I mean, director of training and safety.
Yeah.
God, I guess you get to pick and choose wherever you go and what you want to do.
Yeah, I do. It's pretty much 100% though, anytime a multi-company dispatch goes out.
I love it.
A couple of things. One, I have to be the safety officer at incidents, but two, I'm trying to gain some knowledge of the people. And,
Yeah.
You can't really build training programs unless you're going out there and seeing what we're doing very well so that we can move to other directions.
So I got to ask then, what does a safety officer, do you wear an SCBA? Like safety officer, what is a safety officer? Because I've seen all shapes and styles of them over the years, and I'd love to know what yours looks like.
So basically you can put your own spin on it.
Yes.
I will be interior and exterior. I will be wearing SCBA. I have a thermal imager. I believe that you can't gain an insight as far as the operations just by staying outside. So just because they go inside of the building, the role of the safety officers doesn't necessarily go away. Because if they're working inside the dwelling, you have to have the ability to just make sure that they have the tools that they need to succeed and communicate with the company officers and just see what they need. So you're a bridge between the operations and the incident commander. But there's a lot to it. It's a full 360 of the structure. It's checking with your rapid intervention team to make sure that they are staffed, they have the equipment, they've softened the building, they have the appropriate size up. And it's also making sure that my ALS ambulance crew is at the command post, and this is my big pet peeve. They have their equipment with them at the command post ready to go. It's not at a truck a block and a half away. So I want those things in place when I arrive on scene. And then it's basically just putting the tools in place for the people to succeed and making sure that things are going well.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that that's an important perspective. I think it gets lost sometimes. But I've also seen guys in that role. It gives them a license to freelance in a way. And I hate the word freelance because firefighting is, as much as it's teamwork, it's a lot of individual work. But I've seen safety officers get a little overzealous on the fire ground and forget what they're there for.
Yeah, and that can happen. I mean, it's happened with me. I mean, I come from a rescue company. I mean, all I've ever did was freelance.
I get it. I totally get it.
As I told you before, Chief Mike Walsh always said, "You're never where you say you are."
Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
so,
that's because you're always working ahead of where you needed to be, right? So, yeah,
so it is possible at times, but now there's a lot more. I flipped the script where I have to be more accountable for them and be more accountable for myself, and just keep an eye on what's going on. Because
I always loved the fire ground when I was in a position of when I had a spot in the command structure. I enjoyed playing in the sandbox. I love carrying a tool. I love going to work. I love being a fireman. But when you have responsibility in the pecking order of the command staff on the fire ground, it becomes your sandbox, and then you get to help craft what it's going to look like. And I always take it back to the days when I was a kid with my toys and fire trucks and stuff, and it's like, park here, do this, operate this way. Like, I love that because you get to do that on a large scale, and I always enjoyed that part of being involved in a command staff. I love that aspect of it. So I want to go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you look at and I look back at data because I love data, and I look back at incidents and do my homework on all the problems that we've had. And a lot of it comes from an overwhelmed command staff. So if you're that one incident commander that's overwhelmed, so what can I do to help alleviate some of that for the incident? Because our chief does not have an aide. He is the sole battalion commander of an incident. So maybe I can get to the rear of the building and give him a good size up when I first get there, or do that, help with that, or help a little bit with operations, or help with the fire ground accountability a little more so, and be an extra set of eyes and ears. So it's a very active role.
Oh, yeah. It's dynamic. And you're wearing many different hats during it, too. You know what I mean?
And, and there comes a time where you have to have direct conversations about things that are not being done safe. And there's times when you do things right like a gentleman, and you go through the chain of command and you say, hey, Lieutenant, can you have your guy just do this? Sure. So, you either have to be direct at times or you're walking like a gentleman. So you have to be able to pivot either way.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's what I mean. That's what I mean by being dynamic. You are the eyes and ears of command. You are the chief's aide. You are a safety officer. You are looking over the overall scene protection. I mean, all of it. The list goes on, and that's why I believe that the it has to be a specific individual that carries that title, for sure.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and coupled with the fact that I'm, running the training division at the same time, so
Well,
you can tend to, build your programs, based on what you see at incidents here to help our people get better.
so I love that because that is where the rubber meets the road, right? The fact that you're out there, you're responding it. You have your own vehicle, I would assume.
Yeah.
So so you can pick and choose any multiple company jobs you're headed out to, but you get to see the guys on the street. You get to see what they're very proficient in, where maybe some things are lacking, or departmentally. I'm sure on a bigger size, bigger scale, you can look at things and say, we're lacking cohesion here as a department. We need to do better here. That's got to be pretty fun for you.
It is. And what I'm finding for the most part since I've been here is that I'm finding a lot of the basic elements we're very squared away at.
Yeah.
So now I'm moving
Awesome.
in a different direction. I'm like, okay, we're doing this very well. Our individuals, our personnel here are doing things very well from the most part. So I can move towards extra things because I know like the basic operations are being done very well here.
Yeah. So it's the director of training and safety, correct? Norwich, Connecticut.
Yep.
This is like career number 3 or 4 for you in the fire service now. I mean, retire.
You're not going to get better if you don't change, right?
Keep telling yourself that. That's fantastic.
So yeah, off the line, well, no more line schedule. Monday to Friday, 8 to 4.
It's good for home. It's good for family. But I also think too, Jay, knowing you and getting to know you like I have, this gives you a different approach to the fire service. One that I think is right in your wheelhouse. I know you enjoy teaching and instruction, but this now allows you to develop curriculum.
Yep.
To build it on a larger scale. It's not just on a company level anymore. This is on a department level. That's got to be a lot more exciting for you in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it is. It's just what I've wanted to do. All I've ever wanted to do was train and teach. And this is the role that gives me the ability to set curriculum, like you said, do department-wide initiatives, do company-level training. We have a lot of probationary firefighters, more than this department's had any long time right now, and projected more. So we have a lot of growth. We have new company officers. We have a lot of change going on, and it's a great time to start building programs.
Yeah, and what I want to ask you then is, knowing you are a hands-on guy. You love working the fire ground. You love getting dirty. You love getting sweaty. There's no doubt about it, right? And I know that about you. This is a little bit more of take a half a step back position. And I know that the hands-on experience that you have riding in the companies that you have, you certainly have the fire ground experience and knowledge over the years. But how much of that now parlays into like doing more research and homework on the fire service itself, as in, training, line of duty fires, other things that departments are doing elsewhere? Like you said to me when we first started this podcast, I don't even think we captured that. I didn't hit record yet. It's a very busy time in the fire service. What do you mean by that?
It's busy, meaning that the fire service has like a roller coaster effect of it for like hiring on the career side. So I think we're in another one of those waves. And if you look back, if you think, you had the Vietnam era people that came on in the mid 70s. They retired in the mid 90s, and we had a massive hiring then. Now you had that massive hiring in the mid 90s and the 2000s. Now they're all leaving. So now we're in that other wave again. So now we're replacing. So now we're navigating not only in a time where we're hiring a lot of people, but our applicant pool seems to be decreased slightly for whatever reason. So now I think that there's never been a better time to get involved in public service because of the amount of openings that there are. And we're actively hiring, and we're going through a process. We're sending people through recruit schools starting in August. So we are no different than anyone else. And I know that you've talked on other podcasts about lateral transfers and other ways.
Yeah, I just wrote that down in my paperwork.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's other entities involved there. So it's busy, but not only that, it comes with all the training that goes with it. And then if you look at, the new OSHA changes that are coming in a year or so, and how people are pivoting their programs that way, it's a busy time on the admin side. And
yes,
And if the people on the line see the minimal effect of that, that means you're doing your job and you're handling all that for them so they can just do what they do best and just go out, roll out the door. So that's what we're working on.
And that's what I love, an attitude like that, because that is where when things are being done behind in the offices and it the guys on the line don't feel much of a bump from it. And that means that then the jobs are getting done correctly, and the right way to approach it, like you just said, if I'm doing my job, they're going to feel minimal pushback on it, right? And that is so important, where departments are dialed in, they're proficient at what they're doing, and it allows their people to just do what they're supposed to do. That's so important, man. So important.
And you mentioned about, researching and looking at what's going on in fire service, and we're doing a lot of Mayday training right now. And that's where we've done for the last 6 months. We're doing a lot of that. And it's funny because, you talked to Dan Rinaldi the other day, which was a great podcast because the man is 100%
Thank you.
gentleman. He's a Rhode Island legend. I mean, I can
amazing.
go on and on about all the people he mentioned in his podcast about, how great they are. And, you talk about his incident that he had, and Jay LaSalle that worked with him, who I've had the pleasure of teaching with to Jay. He's a great firefighter. And you look at that aspect of his Mayday where the RIT team actually performed and did their job.
Yes.
Got him that RIT pack, and they did that. But that, even you would have to admit, and there's nothing taken away from the incident, that's a rarity according to the data.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the data like Project Mayday, which I'm heavily involved in researching and diving into that, you look at the data about how people are being rescued in Maydays. And a lot of it is either self-rescue or rescued by their own crew, like a large percentage of it.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
So we are now finding a balance between training as a rapid intervention team, but also training for firefighter self-rescue and crew awareness. So we're splitting it evenly down the middle so that we're not shying away from the rapid intervention team and their duties, because that's equally as important. But I think in the past we spent so much time on just the RIT team alone and relying on them to perform the rescue, but the data doesn't support it. So how do we set our people up to succeed in self-rescue and more awareness? And that's what
I love it.
And for. So, we have this debate, and we'll have this debate in the fire service forever. We're always taught, do your job. When a Mayday happens, keep doing your job, keep doing your job, keep doing your job. Yes, if you were putting water on the fire, because when the fire goes out, things get better. We know this. Yes. But if I'm on the second floor and I'm pulling a ceiling and I hear a Mayday on the second floor, I'm not going to continue pulling the ceiling. I'm going to go, right? So, but are we teaching that? And
I agree with you.
And we've even changed in our SOPs about location in your Mayday. And we're now telling our people to give their location in their first Mayday sentence. We're saying Mayday, Mayday, second floor Mayday. Give it right away. Based on a lot of things. You look at the NIOSH reports, communication breakdown, communication between the Mayday and the command post. The message may not have been heard. You're looking at the data of people on the general vicinity of their own crew are helping affect that rescue. So, and that may be the only transmission you get out.
Yes.
So why not give it right away? Why wait to get an acknowledgement from someone to tell them where you are when you're in trouble? Why not put it out right away? And that,
especially if the guy in the next room over hears that right away, he could even get to you even before command even acknowledges the Mayday.
We all know what's going to happen.
That's right.
We know what's going to happen. So why aren't we telling our people it's okay to help someone that's right there while the fast team has been in? And nothing away from Dan's incident, which is we actually did a week-long training program with a private vendor there, Flash Fire, where we replicated the Rinaldi incident. We made a beam, and we had someone trapped under it, and we had our firefighters go in there with the battery-operated spreaders, lift it off of them, and effect a rescue. So we just did it 2 weeks ago. The whole platoon did it. So we're actually learning from that incident.
I think, too, what's really cool about that, Jay, and correct me if I'm wrong.
We're changing the way that we do our Mayday training.
Yeah, I think what's really cool about that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's where you get departmental buy-in, is when you have the ability to put together training programs that represent things that have happened on the fire ground. I did a podcast a couple weeks ago with a guy out of San Francisco, and he said that their training department will mock up and recreate fires they had, in previous fires in the city. And that's where they get company buy-in so that they can review what they did and maybe do something different or better. But that's where you get that buy-in from. The standard bullshit training that most departments throw at their people is monotonous and redundant. And frankly, it doesn't, I don't think it pushes the envelope of training and provide enough value, right?
So you walk a fine line being respectful of the drills that were created in the past based on incidents.
Oh, of course.
And pivot towards something different. And I'll give you a great example. Have you ever done the Denver drill?
Yes, of course.
Is it pretty much the only way you've ever been taught how to bring somebody out a window?
Basically.
Right. But how applicable is it to everyday incidents?
Yeah.
Right? It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a narrow space with a narrow window and an elevated height. It has its purpose, of course, but it shouldn't be the only way that you teach someone to take someone out a window. And we're moving in a different direction with things. And that's how we're getting buy-in, because we're not doing the same thing over and over again. Because everybody's already done it ad nauseum. And if it only fits a narrow scope, you're not going to get that buy-in from people if you're not showing them something that they can readily replicate the next day at work.
Yeah, and it's a foundational tool, like those drills, right? The Denver drill, the Nance drill, like all those things, right? They are foundational tools that drills that were put together, but now expand on it. We've trained on those. We understand the fundamentals of how to remove somebody out of the floor or bring somebody out a narrow window. But let's go deeper now. That's where I think it becomes more dynamic and the buy-in comes from your companies. But we need people to be excited about training and wanting to make it, better for our people.
Yeah. So buy-in. What percentage do you think you're going to get buy-in?
I think I think buy-in is 60 to 70%. That's my personal opinion, but
right. And
yeah, probably not even, right?
Right. No, I'd say I do have a lot of buy-in here. We have a lot of motivated individuals here and things are going well. But if you go in and think about how difficult it is for me being an outsider coming into an agency program. So a lot of it is just learning as I go and learning that, this department needs training and we have to do it, but finding a balance there, and it's going well. And we break the fire service into thirds, right? 33% are hard chargers, 33% are just going to do what they're in their comfort zone, and you want to weigh that middle 33%, and that's where we're at. So, and I have, we have our mandates we have to do, so we have to do training. We have our mandates to do. Yeah. It is what it is, but we try to make it interesting.
Yeah, what's cool too, though, is a department that's willing to go outside of their everyday structure, bring in somebody new for a position like you're in now as director of training, because it brings in a whole new set of values and ideas and opportunities, and departments that, people can go either side, right? It's a pro to go outside of the department. It's a con to go outside of the department. Yep. What I think is any department that's confident in their own skills and abilities and who they are as a structure in a department, when they insert somebody from the outside in, it gives an opportunity to see what else is out there. And so in the position that you're in, especially, that's got to be a lot of fun because you can create a different narrative than what they were accustomed to.
You can. And it also gives me a slight advantage because being able to travel and teach that I do, I can pick from other people that I teach with. Because you all know, you go to these events and I learn just as much as I teach. So I'm like, I can bring that back. And we all share the same stuff. I mean, all the ideas that I'm bringing in had just been, a big melting pot of things that I picked up from other people as we go along and just find where it's applicable. So it's good to have the ability to have all this outside information and just plug it in at places where it needs to be here without making it so like the place needed to be changed, because this place did not need to be changed. These people are very squared away at what they do, and it's just basically keeping it going and teaching the new people to bring them up to this level.
Well, there's something to be said for to insert yourself into a new department, and you got to find your way, and you got to figure out how you fit into the equation. But it works well when it's a well-oiled machine, even before you get there. And it's just a company's what's happening.
It is, and
it's awesome.
We send our recruits to the academy. The academy is going to start at the end of August. They go there. Connecticut's live-in academy. They go 15 weeks and they have to live there. They come home in the week.
Right.
and then they come out, and then we assign them to a shift. So we're doing some initiatives with them. We're empowering like our 2 to 3 year people that we have here, and creating like a peer support for a person going through the academy with people that would just went through maybe a year and a half or 2 years.
Is that new?
That's new. Something I started when I got here. So, and it's kind of a twofold thing. One, who knows better the day in, day out at the recruit school than the person who just went through it, and they can help, and just be a resource for them. But at the same time, we're trying to engage our 1 to 2 year people more so we can keep them. So we want to show that they're of value here, which they are, and give them something where they can contribute other than their probationary duties. Because let's face it, we are in a world of lateral transfers, and we want to do everything that we possibly can to keep our people here.
I love that retention. We don't talk about it enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, you look at, like Providence Fire, like Dan's department, are doing lateral transfers the last couple of years, first time ever in their history. So everyone from other smaller departments are going there, or, they're moving around, or we've lost people here in Norwich to laterals, or we brought people in. So it's, how do we keep the people that are here? So,
I love this conversation because, we, in the fire service, we typically always talk about recruitment.
Yep.
Recruitment. How do we attract people on the more urban departments? How are we have a fair and equitable, pool of candidates and firefighters that represent the neighborhoods in which we respond? On the volunteer side is how do we attract volunteers from, bedroom communities that are working harder than they've ever worked to raise families? Like, we always talk about recruitment, but man, what a resource it is to have people and then determine how you get to keep them. We got to work harder at keeping our people than ever before.
Correct. And it's just a matter of keeping everyone engaged. We can't compete with salaries and benefits. If a job elsewhere is offering you better in salary and benefits, right, we can't compete with that.
I get it.
If a job has more fire duty, we can't compete with that either. I mean, but is that really the one way that they go? Either you want the salary and benefits, so you leave a job for that, or you leave for more fire duty. I mean, if you find a job that has both, but
yeah, giddy up, man. I'll join you.
Yeah. So, I mean, but you chose here because you wanted to be here. So let's make it everything that you wanted to be since you're here, and give you everything that you need. We're going to try and give you the best training we can. We're going to make sure you're outfitted with the best possible gear we can give you. We're going to keep you engaged. We're going to get you through your probation.
That's it, man.
Yeah. And then hopefully
you gotta be realistic about what it looks like. If you can't compete on the fire duty, you can't compete on pay and salary and benefits, then you have to look at the things that you're good at, what you do have in place, and then you need to promote those times 10 so that your people understand they might not get this or this, but they are getting all of this. And I think people want to, now more than ever, right? People have opportunity. And that's why I think you're seeing a decrease in the number of people applying for public servant jobs these days. Police, fire, EMS, all of it. People have other opportunities. When a kid can sell Nike sneakers, buy and trade them online and make $150,000 a year at 20 years old, they have opportunities that never existed before. So we have to compete with that too. So the foundational values of what the fire service can do, what it does for you, your family, all those things have to be important. We have to focus on that and understand that we're competing at a different level today than ever before to hire and maintain and keep our people.
Yeah, it's the retention. And, and there's a lot going on with that. There's a lot to make sure that, we get the right people and we send them to the academy. And then once they leave the academy, they have the resources they need and making sure they get their EMT squared away. There's a lot of stuff.
I love the peer support that you put in place. I think that's really cool. It's dynamic. It's unique. I think we need more of it. A lot of people are looking for the experience today. I know like my kids, my millennial children that are 30 and 28, they are looking more for an experience than anything else. And the experience matters to them and how they're treated, how they're handled. That all matters in the grand scheme of things. And so if we can put a layer of support within the system that encourages them to stay with it. It gives them an opportunity for a rock to lean on, or somebody with some talking points that somebody just went through the same experience. It makes the experience that much better for them, which allow then better buy-in from them back to the department.
No, it does, because we can't preach peer support network for our line personnel and not include them when they're in the academy.
Right. Absolutely.
So we have to. And I'm a big proponent of it, a big proponent of the peer support and the mental health and that. And we just wanted to make sure, because you're basically sending them away for 15 weeks with, minimum contact, and we want to make sure that their physical fitness and their grades are on par. But at the same time, are we checking up on them with just casual little conversations, or having people just text them, say everything good, need anything this week, and all that, just to make sure that they know that we're haven't forgotten about them, because they could be having,
something that stands out to me over the last few weeks. I forget who said it to me, and it was really a pivotal conversation for me and how I'm looking at a lot of things these days, and it's depth versus width. Like, it's when you have a peer support, we could say we support one another, but does that just mean it's a quick phone call or a quick, hey, you doing well? Okay, good, and you move on? That's wide. That's broad, right? I want to go deep. Like, hey, Jay, how was your first week at the academy? I know in the first week they do EMS. How was it? Like, was it what you want? Like that, the quality of the support matters.
Quality over quantity. Like, making sure that it at times when it's needed, so you don't drown it out to the point where they tune it out. So you want to make sure that when they're reaching their benchmarks, or they have an issue, that you're reaching out with the things that you need. And and I've experienced it here, just coming into this role. Like, I have a supported chief, and the shift commanders and the captains and the officers are all great. So anything that I'm pivoting and asking them for, they've been fantastic. So why not pass that down to make sure that the people that we're hiring, they're getting that from me, or we're reaching out to our younger people who, let's face it, they'd rather have a conversation with someone in their mid-20s than me, right?
Yeah.
And especially somebody that's just been through the academy. I never went to a live-in program. I never went to the CFA, so I don't really relate. So getting somebody that can relate to it, I think is better.
Something else that's been on my mind, and I want to hit you with this because I'm sure that this is gonna set you off, which I'm kind of excited about. But lately we had some experiences near home with the academy here where the Fire One, the first class that kids are exposed to in the fire service, is typically hosted by washed up has-been firefighters that are crusty and cranky, and they don't do anything to endorse and push our new members to fall in love with the job. And in fact, what they're doing is turning people off. They're actually disgruntled and angry, and they take it out on the students. And the introduction that these kids have, I have a real hard time with that. And it gets me to the point where I say, like, how dare you turn somebody away from this job by treating them like absolute garbage? And I really think we need to do a better job on the training level of those first classes. Those classes that the kids get the exposure to first have to be taught by the youngest trainers we have out there that are excited and in love with the job still, that have come into the academy and they want to be there, and they're there for the right reasons, and they still ride fire trucks, and they still are in love with the process. We can't subject our new candidates to pieces of shit in the fire academy, and I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it, Jay.
I agree. Some aspects of it are challenging and get it. I mean, I taught probie school for years. I'm sure there are plenty of Warwick recruits who still mention me in their therapy. I'm sure
probably
that there are.
But it might be, it probably was worth it. It was probably required, though, too.
Right, it was. So we are getting a very good product with our academy. Like you talk about the young hard chargers, they start off every day with their PT program, and the PT program, the people that do that are the younger, more energetic instructors. So they set the tone for the day by then. Yes, you are going to get a smattering of people that are just going to be a challenge as part of instructors anywhere. But what I think is good about the program that we go to is they allow chiefs and training instructors to go up there and to observe the days.
That's great.
So I think if you do more of a presence there, it puts more ownership on the people that are teaching them that, hey, you're being watched, and we're invested here in our product, so we want to have the best product possible. So I think by doing that, it helps out. You're right, though. No matter where you go, you are going to get instructors that are well past their teaching, not based on their experience, but their delivery, I think, needs to change at times. You can't, their experience is valuable, of course, but it's their delivery, I think, and something I've had to learn over the years is change my delivery. But we go up there and observe them because our academy has self-pays. Like if you're a part of an entity, and you can go up there and self-pay, and then you can apply. You already have the academy trained. We have that hero to hero program where they allow people to defer their last 6 months of their active duty to go through the academy.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
But then you know who they are, because now you start to see some training officers and chiefs up there. It's like, they're scouting like at a baseball game. Looking at him like, this guy's masking up, and guy's pointing the radar gun at him, seeing how quick.
So hold on. So break that down for me, because I'm not 100% aware of that. So Heroes to Heroes is what it's called?
In the Connecticut Academy, they do a thing called the Hero to Hero program. And if you are in the last, I believe I'm just paraphrasing here, the last 6 months of your active deployment, you can go through the academy, sort of like the old GI Bill, where you'll learn it.
Yeah, right.
And if you're not, and then once you have that, you can start applying to departments throughout the state, because you've already been through the academy and get your. So
it's just like the police, the alternative route police, where they can put themselves through the academy.
Correct.
They pay for it themselves. They put themselves through, and it makes them more palatable for hiring. Yeah. I didn't know that you guys that's just a Connecticut program.
I don't know. That's a great question. But I know we did hire someone that's going to be starting in our academy in August, who is going through on the Hero to Hero program. He was already on our list. And,
is Connecticut civil service?
Depends where you work. Some is.
Okay.
We are not.
You are not. So Chief's test, if you will, for lack of better words, right?
Yeah, so we do a written and an oral. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So then you can draw from that. But does the Heroes to Heroes, do they have positioning on civil service lists?
Great question. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. I want to learn more about this program. I love it.
Civil service departments offer points for military. So, if you're military, you get million points there.
Yeah, right. 5 points, whatever it is. Yeah.
I mean, it's a great program, but it's interesting to see, when you go up there and you're looking, obviously like everybody else, we're all looking for new people. So the training officers and the chiefs all scouting up there, like Olympic
college
trials,
scouts hanging out, watching the game.
Watches and radar guns and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Try to check them out there.
Well, I think, having a lot of these conversations lately about lateral transfers, and departments are starting to compete with one another now. And that's like when we were talking about retention, we're talking about departments have to do a much better job at packaging up who they are so that people understand where they want to go work. And it's almost like the value proposition is switched, and it's now in the favor of the firefighters versus the departments. The departments used to just wave a wand and, we want to come work there because we want the job. We want to get in. And now guys with the opportunities we have, guys and girls have the ability to be like, I don't want to work there. I'd prefer to work over here. And, well, there's more opportunity because we're not hiring as many as we used to, or the list of candidates isn't as big as it once was, so on. So the value proposition is changing. And that fire departments now, it's almost like the firefighters are athletes, and they're trying to figure out where they want to go. And then you have departments positioning to hire the best. It's pretty cool. It's pretty dynamic, man.
So let me pose this question to you. Has there ever been a better time for someone with no experience in the fire service to get on the job? Just walk in with no experience at all and be like, I want a career in public service. I don't have any experience. Has the playing field been leveled now?
Yeah, I think so. I think what's so important and what we have to do, and we can't get away from this part of the conversation, though, is it still comes down to the individual.
Correct. And that's a great point. So when I talk to people who want to get on the job, who have no experience, like we go to these career fairs or recruitment for these things.
Yeah.
I don't really necessarily mind if you don't have any firefighting experience. I don't see it as a detriment, but what I want to see is that you have a job right now, and I don't care if you work at Best Buy, at Burger King, or work wherever. But you come to work every day.
Yes.
And you do very well at your job, and you like coming to work.
Yes.
And if you have a good work ethic, then that's half the battle. Then we can just teach you to be a firefighter. But I need that, buy-in, that you like going to your job and your boss thinks you do a good job and you've had good recommendations and you did well enough in school so the curriculum of EMT wouldn't be a challenge for you. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah, I love that. I think that I would even go deeper than that, Jay. I look for bartenders and service-oriented people. I think,
relations. Sure. Yeah, dealing with the
Yeah.
public. Dealing with the public.
Yeah, and they can also, people like that get a sixth sense on how to read a situation. So whether you're watching people sitting at the bar and you're figuring out, like, he's sleeping with her, he wants her, this guy sneaks outside to grab a cigarette, this guy does this, you, as the bartender or somebody that works in that line of customer service aspect of it,
right,
they can read people pretty well. Well, if you can read people, then you can typically read situations.
Correct.
And so then you get this sixth sense about, like, okay, well, if the fire is here, it's inevitably going to go there, and I got to get there. Like, that's how my brain works. And so when I hire people and I look at people, like in the private sector, I want people that have bartended. I want people that have had, not even, I don't want other salesmen, because I think salesmen are tainted. I want people that come from a service industry that know how to read people, read situations, and that are teachable and trainable.
It's a great point, because
right,
what's their span of control? I mean, they're monitoring 15 to 20 people at a time, and navigating through there. So yeah, I mean, I don't think you'll get anybody in the fire service to disagree that we need more bartenders. I think anybody. We got enough carpenters and electricians.
You're 100% right.
We could use more bartenders.
Yeah. I mean, I think that those things are important too. And I think I was listening to something not too long ago, and they were talking about, like, what kind of people do you want to hire within your organization? You want well-educated, you want hard worker, you want this, you want that. And they go, ultimately, what most people want is, like, grit, consistency, and determination.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you alluded to, right? That those are the people that we're looking for. And they're out there. I get so... And I get caught up in the conversation every once in a while too. New generation, it's different, but no shit. It's always different.
Yeah.
We can't give up. We can't throw in a towel. We can't get lazy. We have to double down on our people that are coming in. And I think what you're doing, Jay, with programs like the peer support, going to the academy and jockeying for position on different guys, it shows that you're dialed in. It shows that you want the best for your organization, but it also shows you want the best for those individuals too.
Right. And let's talk about, like my good friend, Robert Franklin, Elizabeth Eckert there, the whole training in our operational reality, as he said.
Yes.
Right? So, I mean, we're building our programs based on our operational reality, and that's what we're doing. And like, we had a Mayday here right before I got here, like a few months before I had it, we had a Mayday. We had, a very squared away individual with a lot of years on the job get jammed up, called a Mayday, was able to self-rescue. And it hit home here. It really resonated well. So we need to capitalize. And that may be the wrong word, capitalize, but I think it's like use that opportunity to grow from it and to teach our people from it and to do it so we don't have to replicate that again. So, I mean, we were lucky that the incident went resolved without any issue, other than now we're learning from it and we're moving forward from it. So we've had this in the past. We had it in Warwick, where we had a Mayday in Warwick and we had two guys get jammed up, and we ended up getting a grant and doing a whole department-wide program based on that incident. So we're learning from the things that happen. We're being very proactive and trying to minimize the reactive approach, trying to be more proactive. So we're doing a lot of that, and I guess you can't really teach that grit and determination, but you can empower it by teaching them the self-rescue. And like,
I love that.
Pull on their own individual grit and determination and put them through drills where they have to think for themselves and be.
We need to teach our people to fight for life.
Correct. So, and we have a lot of new officers here, and we do a lot of company level training. And I like to give our officers the tools to succeed, to run their own training, because I think company training is the core of everything. So I'm not going to go there and tell them what to teach or how to teach their thing, but I want to give them the tools they need to run their company level training and let them learn and teach and that cohesiveness, and I'll just fill in the little gaps when needed. And I think once you start at the individual level, teach them how to self-rescue, you get that company level going where they're all doing it together, roll it out to a shift-wide program, you'll get, a little bit of buy-in from it.
I agree. I love all of this operational reality. Obviously, I mean, that's always been the theme for what you guys have done with Eckert Fire Training. There's no doubt. I think what's really cool, and I'm listening to you, and a lot of this conversation continues to focus on the individuals, whether it's at the academy, whether it's in the firehouse with retention, but also the Mayday stuff. That is about taking care of our own. And it's just the theme of what this conversation's been, Jay. It's the commitment to your people. For you, where you are today in your career, being able to mold and shape and craft a narrative around the training aspects in Norwich there and so on, you're going all in on your people. And that's got to be received really well. And I guess what I'm trying to get to is with the operational reality of all this Mayday stuff and finding you're using information that you're getting from research and from people that have put time in the trenches to compile data, and then we take that data and put it to practical use.
Yep.
Super important, man. Have you always, has your mindset always been that way, or are you looking at science today, like all these UL studies, all these different things, right? And I'm not trying to lump them all into one, but it's just, have you always been that way?
No, but it's never been really available. Now it's there. I
love that.
So, I mean, give yourself a clap. I mean, you're putting the people out there that are presenting this information, so it makes it more readily available for us to pull from it. And you look at, we never had that before. We were always in our narrow scope before, but now, you're looking at the people who are doing these data researches, and whether, they're talking about Project Mayday, or they're talking about 2 in and 2 out and how it really doesn't really work. Or, you look at even stuff like, they're doing out of Worcester, that Diane Carter's doing with all the PFAS and the gear, and you're looking at all these different things, and you're pivoting to different directions. It's there. So if you're not reading NIOSH reports, if you're not looking at the breakdown that can happen with a Mayday, and you're not reading the data that comes from the events and people reporting it, you're doing a disservice. So why aren't we training based on events that have already happened and the data that's there?
I agree. I think data is super important. I think what we have to do, though, is be careful of how we consume data and put it to practical experience, though. We can't get too far in with data to get lost in the practical approach.
Yep. Agreed.
Does that make sense?
Agreed. Yep. I mean, it's not, I mean, I don't want to.
It's finding balance, right?
Everything's balance. So finding balance of the traditions that have been here in the past and learning from those experiences, but pivoting towards what's applicable today. And that's what we're trying to do. We're not ignoring things, but we're just trying to build off of and maybe, change direction slightly, but not taking away from all the other past experiences that departments have had, Well,
as you said, it's a busy time in the fire service, and then quote unquote, we've never had that before.
It's been a long time since we've had this much turnover, this much change, this much new thing coming down.
But also information. That's what I'm getting at, Jay. It's all of this comes across. It is such an exciting time because you have people that are dedicating and putting in so much time because it's a passion for them, and they're compiling data, putting information together. We're coming up with ideas and thoughts which are changing what a lot of what people thought was the status quo or the way to do things is starting to be challenged and questioned. And I don't know, I don't think everything in the world needs to be questioned continuously. However, that's the way life is, right? We need to challenge it to make sure, though, that what exists, what is the status quo, is still good for us today. I agree with that 100%. But we are in such a unique time right now where so much information is readily available to the end user. Firefighters can pick up anything they want and read or learn about a topic more than ever before. Why wouldn't we do that, right?
And, I mean, does it really prevent the reinventing of the wheel?
Right.
So we're not slowing things down by over-engineering or reinventing things that are already in place. Somebody is doing something already somewhere that they picked up from somebody else and they fine-tuned it and refined it. Why not pick that up and run with it?
I agree, and I think the key word there though is refine.
Correct.
Because this is my concern again with data versus reality.
Right.
Is that we could based off of a few studies change things drastically in the fire service. Fire service is slow to change. We have to be sure that over time it's representative of what we want and need to do, and we can't just institute new policy overnight because somebody said that this is the newest and latest and greatest.
Correct. And I'll give you a great example of that. 4-person engine companies get a line in place faster. The data supports that.
Yes.
We're not getting that here.
Right.
So we are not going to use that data. We are going to work to get better at what we have in our own operational reality, because we're not going to get, the data does support that. You're right. We have to refine it and not pick everything. We're not going to get,
yes.
Would a 6-person truck company be beneficial? Of course it would. It's not happening.
Yeah.
So,
right. Like, no, I agree.
I mean, it's there. I mean, and I love the debate that you had over searching off the hose line. Now, that debate that you had there. I mean, sometimes in our operational reality, based on the staffing that we have, and you're stretching a line into the building, someone may get off that line to check a room or something, because it's our operational reality. Is it the best way?
Yes.
No. But, the fire has to go out. Correct.
We got a job to do.
Better, but at the same time, it's that whole life safety over property conservation. So if you have to pivot to save a life, that's first in the pecking order.
Sure.
So
sure, and it also comes down to the job has to get done whether you have a 3-man engine or a 6-man engine.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter.
It
doesn't matter. Job still has to get done. How do we get it done to our operational reality?
Correct. And
as a training officer, as a director of training, then so important to take this information and make it yours.
Correct.
I love it.
And
you have to.
We look at the type of buildings we have. We are a very industrial city. We have a lot of vertical 3-story frame, typical New England. We have an old, aged industrial city. We have the potential. We have a lot of type 3. We have a lot of brick. So we need to train for the reality of that. We do a lot of vertical stretch. So we need to, teach our people about estimating hose stretch and getting up to upper floors, because that's our reality here. If we worked in neighborhoods that were, ranch houses on slabs, it would be different. So, I mean, it's just finding what fits best for your reality. And that's what we're doing. That's one thing Bobby taught me. That's what I learned from him. And that's how I pivoted. I mean, he taught me that,
there's so much to that. And I think that is the caution of this tale, right? Is that people that listen to this, they have to understand that what is out there and being promoted and pushed and talked about, you have to make it yours. You go to a conference and you come home with new tricks or new ideas. You got to integrate that slowly and make sure it actually works for you. Just because it worked in a different zip code does not mean it's going to work for you.
I said it before and I'll say it again. You got to learn the trade before you learn the tricks of the trade, right? So you've got to just get whatever. And I pick up things from conferences and other places, but just pick and choose what fits in. But you're not going to come into the door and knock on the chief's door and say, "Oh, we need a 4-person engine company tomorrow," because that's what the data supports. It's not that easy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it isn't. I mean, but if we can provide them with the trainings and, try to get the best equipment we can, and set a good plan for it, I'm hoping that we get a good amount of buy-in. So.
Yeah, well, I think what you're doing there is special, and I know you as the individual, and I know that your love and passion for the job obviously shines through in everything that you do. I keep going back to my notes. I just, nobody ever sees what I do, but I write notes. I draw too. I doodle also.
Doodle, that's all right.
I doodle. But I always, you should see my desk mats. They're covered in ink because I'm a doodler, man. My brain's always constantly working. Anyway, my point is I keep coming back to something that's just all this Mayday conversation, how you said that your focus in training right now has been a lot on the Mayday, and educating your people and using Project Mayday as a resource to start looking at do our practices and our operational reality match truly what is being thought and told and how we've educated ourselves. What I love about that is you said something about softening buildings.
Yes.
Before.
Yep.
And we talk about the RIT teams that we assign probably in your city, I would assume. I don't know how big of a city it is, Jay, but what?
Sure. So real quick, the city of Norwich is 40,000 residents. The city of Norwich Fire Department is in like the central. So we have 3.2 square miles, 26,000 of the 40,000 residents live in our little area.
Got it.
We are supported, and there's 5 surrounding volunteer departments in Norwich, and together with the Norwich Fire Service. All of that.
Got it. That's an interesting setup.
So,
okay.
And our FAST team comes from another agency.
It does.
So it does. Yep.
So then for you, do you get to work with that other agency when it comes to?
Yep.
Go ahead.
So when I arrive on scene as a safety officer, I'll have a conversation with the RIT team, and I want to know if the building's been soft. I'm checking, their staffing. I'm checking their equipment that's in there. If there is some sort of a rapid intervention incident, there would be an integration of our people and our command staff with them to do that.
Okay.
But at the same time, like we did that 4-day, we did a program here for the RIT training. We invited our mutual aid partners to the training, and they participated in it.
Awesome.
So,
the way it should be.
yes, because I mean, if we're relying on another agency to be our FAST team, we need to offer them training or have some sort of ability to intermingle and co-train there. So, and that's what we're working on. We've had some other drills where we've invited them to participate in, because if we're relying on them, we want to be able to offer at least the equivalent that we're doing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's called proficiency and cohesion, right? Yeah. I mean, you have to have that for sure.
Yeah. And we soften the building. We soften it. Yeah.
Well, so what does that mean? I kind of want to put a definition to that in a way, because I know it's, there's still places in this country that frown upon their FAST teams doing anything other than locating on one side of the building with their equipment and not moving, right? Like that is a ridiculous approach, I think. Yeah. But what does soften the building mean?
Obviously it goes back to FAST. FAST shouldn't be fucking around standing there, right? It shouldn't stand for that. Right. It shouldn't be that. So what it means is a 360 is performed and ground ladders are placed. So ground ladders at windows on upper levels, upper floors, at least one per side, just to have there. And then anything else that can be done to soften it. Anything that's going to be an obstacle or obstruction on the exterior can be removed out of the way. And then a good idea and size up as it goes by how things are progressing. So if the building is weakening on one side, we're going to make sure that people are removed from that. Or if it's a larger building and companies are operating in the rear, are we getting an additional FAST team and putting them in another side of the building if it's a larger incident, by softening it, meaning putting our people in different places.
Yes.
So necessarily maybe that in the vicinity of the command post wouldn't be the best thing, but making them mobile too, having them ability to pick up their stuff and go, I think softens the incident as well. But basically it's done through ground ladders and having hose lines in place to soften up that building, and
points of access, right? Egress, so on, opening up.
Yeah, windows and outdoors, as long as it's coordinated and there's, can be done, this hose lines in place. So you want to get them, in getting the stuff out of the way, getting screen doors off the front and the rear doors that are just going to block things off. Yes. Getting the blinds and little things out of the windows, and just having those ladders set up for rescue. Like I want to see the tips at the sill there and set up for that.
Especially in a vertical city, man. You said it yourself. You got a lot of 3-deckers, right? 3-story.
And we have a lot of buildings that are cut in half the opposite way. So if you're throwing a ground ladder, let's say on the Bravo side at the AB corner, you're going to need one at the BC corner because it's blocked in the middle somewhere.
Interesting.
So that ladder you're throwing up on that front corner won't necessarily benefit you if you're in the rear, because you're not going to be able to get to that point. So it's little things like that, like knowing your district and knowing your buildings. And the RIT team can throw ground ladders all day long. There's nothing wrong.
I think so. I mean, we have communications, and if we need them, they go to work, right? But I love the operational reality, though, about educating your people about getting themselves in a position of self-rescue, or if you're in the building and you have the ability to be a part of whatever it is, get there and go do.
Right. I mean, you look at the data supports that they're rescued by themselves. A lot of them walk out. A lot of them are rescued by the crews around them. But what I also love about their data is like over 80% have strong confidence in their company officer. How important is that? Like, you look at the data, and says a lot of people they interviewed firmly believe that their company officer is advocating and doing well for them. So we train at the company level and have that said company officer doing their training and helping that integration and that cohesiveness.
So important, man.
It is. I mean, and I don't know how RIT teams are everywhere else, but you look at the data and you look at, do people have confidence in their RIT team versus confidence in the company officer? Especially if it comes from another agency. I'm not sure what the answer is for that, but self-rescue is the best.
Well, you're making the equation, you're skewing the equation in your direction because you're bringing in that outside agency to train with, so that they understand what's expected of them. They understand the level at which you're at, right? Like nobody wants to be on the playing field with a subpar department or company. So if you're not coming up to our level, we might have to find someone else to come to our fires.
Sure, and I'm not saying that our level is the greatest, but we're just trying to. I would want them to have the same expectation of if we were 100%. Going to them, and we just want to form that relationship. And I think that's what's most important is just putting the training out there, and anybody can come.
Confidence. Confidence, brother. I think putting together programs or training events where people can come and feel each other out. That is where we gain confidence in one another and our skills and abilities in different companies and how they work and how they operate on the fire ground. Super important. Yeah. And you get to now make those opportunities happen. I think that's fun, man. It's your sandbox.
We're trying, and finding that balance of, developing programs, but also doing hands-on stuff too, as well. So, as much as our probationary firefighters have to train with their company officers, I'm trying to do more and more involved with them and doing stuff. I'm pulling them for an hour a day and doing stuff with them too, and just helping, get things from a different perspective.
I love that. That's cool. What's next for you, man?
We're just plugging along here, doing these programs. I am going to the fire.
Are you finding your way? Like it's been a good adjustment?
Yeah. Not at home. They are not happy that I'm home every night and every weekend. I will tell you that what it's like to live with teenage girls.
Oh, that's good.
They do not like dad being home every night.
That's hilarious.
I do find myself walking around on weekends sometimes at home, bored out of my mind because I'm not used to being home a lot. But we're making it.
Yeah, well, you know what you get to do now? Yeah. You get to focus on home, too.
Yeah, which is
I think that's important, man. Yeah.
I got a 10-year-old still. I'm hitting every soccer game. I'm not missing anything.
Yep.
So it's good.
Soccer dad, Erban.
That's it,
Pulling up in a minivan with Pearl Jam playing. I get it.
They're going on tour. Yeah, I'm ready to see them this year.
I know
Things are going well.
I know. You were going to say something, and I cut you off, but I didn't mean to.
I'm going to the firemanship conference in July in Chicago. I'm taking a class. So I'm actually going to take a class out there for 2 days.
What class are you taking?
Peak Rescue and Elevated Safety's New Paradigm Rescue. It's a rope class. So 2-day hot class. Going out there with
still nerding out on all your tech stuff?
Little professional development. Learning from others. So.
Well, what do they say, right? We got to continually be a student.
That's it.
And as much as you're helping and training and doing your part of, what you do in your career and outside of your career with moonlighting with Eckert and so on, you still got to further your own profession and abilities, right?
Student in the fire service, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
There it is.
Well, like you said, it's a busy time in the fire service. It's also an exciting time.
It is. Very so.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe
Agreed.
it. Jay Erban, you're the man.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks for joining me, man.
I appreciate it.
It's always great to catch up. Yeah. And this was totally on a whim. I think I texted you Friday, and I'm like, hey, I got time. You want to jump in?
Yeah. No,
you're like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, it was great. I was just listening to Danny's thing right after we talked.
What a guy, man. I had never met him before until, a couple weeks ago. His story is incredibly powerful. But, his Mayday is one thing, right?
Yep.
Of course. And it was a legit Mayday. Trapped. Fire, I mean, the whole thing, right? 32 and a half minutes, I think it was, to get removed from the debris and so on.
Yep.
But what else struck me about him was just his demeanor, his love for the job, the one thing that I think is so important that we don't talk enough about is being protective of what this job is.
He is an advocate for this job and protects.
Yes.
Based on his longevity alone, and protects it, wants it to be better and continues to want it to be better. And I mean, I grew up buffing Providence's fire. I'm a ding, as Dan was. I'm a ding. Huge
ding. I never heard that until I didn't know that. I thought Spark was all New England, but no, that's just Boston area, right?
Ding. Yeah. And, if you went to a fire in the early 90s and you got to see, Danny, Paul Dowdy, Mike Bates, all these guys that work on the hazards and all these fires, man, it was a good, these guys were they built, the stuff that we have today. And, all the guys that he mentioned too, like Eric Norberg, he talked about who he teaches with, who I had the pleasure of working with at fires over my whole career. What a great firefighter is. And, Danny surrounded himself with good people, and he knows it. And he's good at what he does. He's mentored a lot of people on this job. Always good dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is.
Well, I'll tell you, I hope that the future generations are looking at the guys that before them like we do the guys before us. You think about, you want to get back to your Buffy days, but you look at like those New York City films, The Brothers in Battle and all those things. And we all watched them. We all watched those videos 100 times, right?
Providence had a video back in the 90s called Code Red. It was amazing.
Code Red.
YouTube it. You'll love it. It is vintage.
And if you, I actually think I've seen part. I'll check it out for sure. But my point is, Jay, is like you look at those guys like they're giants of the fire service. They went to fires in those videos and they talked about those fires with a smile and a smirk, and the friendships and camaraderie that they share. Like I really think that is what we all want to emulate, trying to be like, and so we need to do that. And comes with that this core idea that we have to be protective of what this job has done for us. And I think you do have to be all in on it. I think you have to fall in love with it and allow it to enjoy the process along the way.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And, Dan talked about how we had people over his house and have all these parties and all that stuff and everything and get buy-in and everything. And I think it's more challenging now than it's ever been. Because we're on 24s, right? We used to be on straights, work 2 days, 2 nights. So at that, when you worked your second day tour, those phone calls went around, hey, we're meeting for one.
Where are we going?
Right? And we don't really have, and that was so important. We don't really think about it now, but you could be on a 24/72 and never see one group.
It's true.
So
that's very true.
You have to just be a little bit more proactive and try and make that little extra effort to get that cohesiveness like he's doing. Yeah. Like you said.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. Jay Erban, thank you, brother. Congratulations on the move over to Norwich.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're finding your legs there and things are going well. So it's always good to see my friends succeeding in life. So keep up the good work, pal. I appreciate you.
No, thank you.
Cool. Don't go anywhere. Let me sign off the podcast. I'll come right back to you. Stay right here, okay? Yeah. Cool. Everyone, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the National Fire Radio Podcast. Like I say at the end of every episode, take this conversation, take it back to the firehouse and talk about it, because when we're talking about the job, we're making the job better. We'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
National Fire Radio.